Hey everyone, they say imitation is the most sincerest form of flattery, so given Hardkernel's clones are clones at this point, that's surely saying something about just how much they've contributed to the retro gaming handheld scene with their fantastic work. With that being said, however, I found my time with their latest handheld, the ODROID Go Ultra, a bit of a slog and will continue to find it quite difficult to recommend in its current state. The ODROID Go Ultra will look very familiar to some, as it's cosmetically near identical to the ODROID Go Super before it. Internally, it's a lot more powerful, powered by an M-Logic S9 22X CPU with 2GB of RAM and 16GB of internal storage that comes loaded with a custom build of emulation station. We still don't have any internal wireless capabilities, but the price is very reasonable for the power, in theory anyway, with it being available at around the $130 mark. It's been shown off quite rightly in almost all footage of the Ultra, but to charge it you'll need to use the packaged split cable to maximise the charging rate due to the dual PMIC architecture on the board. It's not a massive thing, admittedly, but it is a bit of an annoyance that you're having to make a compromise before you've even finished unpacking the handheld. This is also the first time with an ODROID that the lack of wireless capabilities is a bit of a problem. Whether stock firmware won't come loaded with the required BIOS files for some emulators, and without connecting the handheld to Wi-Fi, there's no real way of placing the files where they need to be. And getting games on the handheld and recognised by the handheld in the first place was a bit of a mission for me. No matter what I did, I couldn't get a micro SD card recognised by the handheld until I finally formatted it with a Linux workstation. So what I'm ultimately trying to say here is the ODROID Go Ultra didn't give me the best of first impressions. I'm not adverse to complex setup. Anyone who follows the channel will know I love my Pi handhelds after all, and I may be used to a lot more smoother setup experience with the amount of handhelds I've covered since the last ODROID, admittedly. But at the least, the ODROID Go Ultra is certainly not a handheld you'd get to gift to a non-techie. It's also a bit of a disappointment that the controls or D-pad haven't been improved since the ODROID Go Super. They're still functional and certainly far from terrible, but they both just feel a tiny bit too small for the handheld and still have the same issues, with the D-pad taking a while of adjustment time to get used to its thin edges and compact arc travel, and the buttons being very tall, so taking just a tad too long to compress and bounce back. We have seen improvements in the joysticks, which apart from not clicking in to offer L3 and R3 functioning, are a far improvement over the sandpaper slider analogues of older handhelds. I also continue to really like the clear style of the casing. It's a true clear design and it's pretty awesome to be able to spin it around and see everything inside. Speaking of which, we've only got a mono speaker, which although a decent speaker in and itself, is somewhat awkwardly positioned in the bottom left so it can easily appear muffled during play sessions. And we do have a custom build that ships with ODROID Go Ultra that sits within the handheld's 16GB of internal storage. This is a bit of a blessing and a curse, as although it's nice to turn it on and see an OS, it's far from good to go unfortunately. You'll need a way to give the handheld network access, move some BIOSes onto it, and then get some games on it. If it wasn't for the ODROID Go forums and Must Have Metro Game Corps, I think I would have taken ages to figure all this out myself, so big thanks to them there. Even then though, there doesn't appear to have any access to RetroArch within Emulation Station, so no configurable options, and you're limited to auto save states. Performance is also all over the place. PlayStation 1 is all but a slideshow for me, but I had moderate Gamecube performance, which Evers reports no end of problems with. It's a shame as the potential for decent price to performance is there from on paper anyway, but the stock OS feels a little bit unfinished straight out of the box. So I'll cut some gameplay now and then just summarise back up at the end. So there we have it. I really do wish I had a lot better things to say about the ODROID Go Ultra, but I think it's ultimately a bit of a hard one to love in its current state. The community may well come in, save the day, and unlock a lot of the potential which is there to make the most out of its price to performance ratio, but unless you've got a lot of tech skills and love to tinker, I'd personally recommend looking into one of the more pick up and play handhelds, at least for now. That's it. Thank you very much for watching.